This is going to be a quick Reason tutorial to show you how to make a quick and dirty 303 bass sound. Um, we're going to make it fairly similar to how 303 bass works. There's a lot of tweaking you could do to really sort of go any sort of direction you want with a 303 bass sound. To start, I'm going to play an example, and this is going to be the dry 303 bass sound is pretty much just the device, but then I also have a distortion and reverb to add a little bit more flavor and sort of get some of those iconic acid house sounds. So anyways, here's some examples. So as you can see, it's a lot of fun to mess around with. That's probably one of the most fun aspects of 303 bass and 303 bass lines is you get a simple pattern going and then you just start tweaking with settings, and it's a lot of fun, and that's sort of the concept behind a lot of acid house bass lines and all that jazz. So anyways, to get started, we're going to open up a Thor. Notice that my Thor is initialized. And you do this by, in case yours isn't already, you do this by right-clicking, selecting Reset Device, or if you're in an older version of Reason, it used to be Initialize Patch. And once you do that, you'll have something like this. That sounds something like this. I'm going to go ahead and just move these bass lines right in right off the bat, just so we can hear it as it progresses. So I'm going to bring this an octave down. And this is actually a sound that you can get with a 303 bass. It's not maybe the most interesting and certainly not the most sought after, but everything that we need to get a 303 bass sound is already set up here. What we're going to be going for is a oscillator with a sawtooth wave or square wave. A quick note, if we select the square wave in the analog oscillator, then you have this selection for pulse width, and we're actually going to want to set it on 63 because we want just a straight square wave. So 303 is oscillator, sawtooth, or square. Filter, low pass filter, frequency knob, resonance knob, envelope amount knob, and then the filter envelope. So we're going to tweak these settings to get some of the iconic sounds. For the filter envelope, we don't really need the sustain or release, so we'll turn those down. The decay, we're going to be adjusting. So I like to bring it around just below 1 second, but we'll mess around with it later. Bring the frequency knob, well, we're going to mess around with it, so it doesn't really matter where you set it right now. I'm going to bring it down a little bit though. Bring up the resonance knob. This is sort of important to get that sort of iconic acid house sound. And then the envelope amount. And this is sort of a acid 303 sound. Keep in mind this is dry and this doesn't have any effects on it yet, but that's the basic 303 sound. So anything we do on from here, mess around with, plug in different distortions, different reverbs, or whatever, to still have that 303 sound, but then have your own sort of flavor. To get into the sound that we started with, I'm going to start using some effects. I'm going to start with a little bit of chorus, add a little bit of stereo feel. I'm going to throw on a distortion unit, Scream 4 distortion. You can use any distortion you like, but I personally like the tube distortion. I bump up these parameters a little bit. It doesn't really matter. They don't have a huge total change on the distortion. But turning up the damage control definitely has an effect. We're going to also add a little bit of reverb. Bring the K down a little bit, as well as the dry wet. And then I also like to add this EQ in and just bump up the highs a little bit, just to add a little bit of brightness. I'll do that again with it playing. That's just because since we're using a low pass filter, it cuts out a lot of the brightness, and I like to add it back in with a little bit of an EQ, so that's why I do that. But you can adjust it how you like. Just going to tweak these settings a little bit more to get closer to how these sounds sounded like in the beginning of the video. So, yeah. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much getting that 303 bass sound. You can play around with it. Recording, playing by hand can be challenging to get a sort of 303 bass sound. One of the key aspects of 303 bass lines is those quick staccato notes. You can write those notes in, or actually what works really well, and is a little bit more true to the 303, is if you select the Thor and then go to Utilities, or basically we're going to just be making a matrix pattern sequencer. I didn't quite click it. And this will create quick staccato notes, 16ths. So then you can begin to shape your bass line using this by, if you hold Shift while you click a value, or one of these gate values, then you can make a tied note. So I'm going to bring this octave down a little bit more. And you have a acid bass line. And so then I can start messing around with these settings. And anyways, it's a lot of fun. So that's pretty much sums up what I wanted to share with you. Hopefully you got something out of this, and thanks for watching.